I want to do a story to kind of break the myth about taxi drivers, and here we go. 20 years ago, I drove a cab for a living. It was a cowboy's life, a life for someone who wanted no boss. What I didn't realize was it was also a ministry. Because I drove the night shift, my cab became a moving confessional. Passengers climbed in, sat down behind me in total anonymity, and told me about their lives. I encountered people whose lives amazed me, ennobled me, and made me laugh, and weep. But none touched me more than the woman I picked up late one August night. I was responding to a call from a small brick fourplex in a quiet part of town. I assumed I was being sent to pick up some partiers or someone who had just had a fight with a lover, or a worker heading to an early shift at some factory for the industrial part of town. When I arrived at 2:30 a.m., the building was dark except for a single light in a ground floor window. Under these circumstances, most drivers would just honk once or twice, wait a minute, then drive away. But I had seen too many impoverished people who depended on taxis as their only means of transportation. Unless the situation smelled of danger, I always went to the door. The passenger might be someone who needed my assistance, I reasoned to myself. So I walked to the door and knocked. "Just a minute," answered a frail, elderly voice. I could hear something being dragged across the floor. After a long pause, the door opened. A small woman in her 80s stood before me. She was wearing a print dress and a pillbox hat, and a veil pinned on it, like somebody out of a 1940s movie. By her side was a small nylon suitcase. The apartment looked as if no one had lived there for years. All the furniture was covered with sheets. There were no clocks on the wall, no knickknacks or utensils on the counter. In the corner was a cardboard box with photos and glassware in it. "Would you carry my bag out to the car?" she said. I took the suitcase to the cab. Then I returned to assist the woman. She took my arm, and we walked slowly towards the curb. She kept thanking me for my kindness. "It's nothing," I told her. "I just tried to treat my passengers the way I would want my mother were treated." "Oh, you're such a good boy," she said. When we got in the cab, she gave me an address, then asked, "Could you drive through downtown?" "It's not the shortest way," I answered quickly. "Oh, I don't mind," she said. "I'm in no hurry. I'm on my way to a hospice." I looked in the rearview mirror. Her eyes were glistening. "I don't have any family left," she continued. "The doctors say I don't have very long." I quickly reached over and shut off the meter. "What route would you like me to take?" I asked. For the next 2 hours we drove through the city. She showed me the building where she had once worked as an elevator operator. We drove through the neighborhood where she and her husband had lived when they first got married. She had me pull up in front of a furniture warehouse that had once been a ballroom, where she had gone dancing as a girl. Sometimes she'd ask me to slow in front of a particular building or a corner, and would sit staring in the darkness, saying nothing. As the first hint of the sun was creasing the horizon, she suddenly said, "I'm tired. Let's go now." We drove in silence to the address she gave me. It was a low building, like a small convalescent home, with a driveway that passed under a portico. Two orderlies came out to the cab as soon as we pulled up. They were solicitous and intense, watching her every move. They must have been expecting her. I opened the trunk and took the small suitcase to the door. The woman was already seated in a wheelchair. "How much do I owe you?" she asked, reaching into her purse. "Nothing," I said. "You have to make a living," she answered. "There are other passengers," I responded. Almost without thinking, I bent down and gave her a hug. She held on to me tightly. "You gave an old woman a little moment of joy," she said. "Thank you." I squeezed her hand and walked into the dim morning light. Behind me, a door shut. It was the sound of the closing of a life. I didn't pick up any more passengers that shift. I drove aimlessly, lost in thought. For the rest of the day, I could hardly talk. What if that woman had gotten an angry driver, or one who was impatient to end his shift? What if I had refused to take the run, or had honked once, then driven away? On a quick review, I don't think that I have done anything more important in my life. We're conditioned to think that our lives revolve around great moments, but great moments often catch us unaware. Usually wrapped in what others may consider a small one. This is a story that I found a long time ago. Me being a former taxi driver, it just touches home. Hope you enjoyed it.